Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Sidetrack here, bringing you another Minecraft tutorial. Today we're taking a look at part 2 on our mod Big Reactors written by Erogenous Beef. In part 1 we looked at the lower of the gray structures you see behind me, the basic tier 1 nuclear reactor. Basic nuclear reactor seems like a little bit of an oxymoron, but that's okay. We talked about how you build them, what kind of features you can put in them, considerations for that kind of stuff. In this episode, we're going to look at the the light gray spinning reactor that you see behind me. This is the tier 2 reactor, the steam turbine. Now, the steam turbine you can use all by itself. In fact, if I were to go ahead and hop over here, this particular steam turbine is running by steam that's being created from this creative portable tank, and it is running just fine all on its own. However, to get the most out of this mod, you actually want to pair your tier 1 reactor with your tier 2 reactor. And that's what we're going to do. So without further ado, let's get started. At this point, you've already built your tier 1 reactor, and you've been running it for quite some time. In fact, you've been running it for so long that you have tons of this cyanite just hanging around, and you're not sure what to do with it. Well, there are two options. So the first option is to use this cyanide reprocessor, and you can reprocess your cyanite into another form. It's going to require a bit of water, a bit of power, and a bit of time, and we are going to turn it into this plutonium. Now, plutonium has two uses. You can use it as fuel, so it will work just like yellorium. You can pump it back into your reactor, and it will make more power. Basically, you take two cyanite, turn them back into plutonium, and effectively this enables you to prolong the use or the life of, your radioactive fuels. There are a couple ways you can use the cyanide reprocessor. So the first thing is that you need to import water. In order to get water in, you need to set one side to blue. And you do that just by clicking on it, because by default it's going to be blank. And some people are like, wait, there's no water, I don't know what to do. Just click on it till it's blue, and it will fill up with whatever side. Right now I'm just using Liquidux. Alright, and then what you can do from the other sides, you can have, an automatic input. You're going to input, cyanite into here, so you can have it extract from your reactor straight into your cyanide reprocessor. And then there's also the green side, which is an output. Now, it will output automatically into chests, into pipes, provided it's set to the green side. In a second, you'll see some of this get stuck into the chest next door. There we go. So pretty good deal. The other thing that you can do with plutonium and your cyanite is to make our steam turbine, which is what we're going to do right now. So there are a couple of rules for your steam turbine. The first rule is that your turbine has to have a frame made out of turbine housing. Now, the turbine housing can be in almost any size. I'll make that a little bit bigger than I wanted to. But it has to be a rectangular prism, meaning it has to be cube or rectangular in shape. So we're going to make ourselves a cube. Whoop. And let me go ahead and do this really quick. And then we'll talk about what else we have to do here. Alright, so we need to have the frame made out of turbine housing. The other things that you're going to have to absolutely have, you need to have one turbine controller. You need to have one turbine rotor bearing. And this is going to go along the long, it's going to go on the short end of your reactor or your turbine. So if you're making a rectangle, this has to go in the small end. So if this were taller than 3, it would go down here. You'll understand what I mean. I'll do a couple of larger things for you in a minute. Coming off of this rotor bearing, we have to have some turbine shafts. All right? And they need to run the entire length of the reactor. Good deal. Now, off of these turbine shafts, you need to have some rotor blades. The rotor blades, you're going to use a certain number of them depending on the amount of steam that you have coming into your reactor. For now, we're going to use 8. It's a pretty small number. All right. So then what do we do with the rest of this? Well, don't forget, we need to make sure we have a power tap or a power port. This is the turbine power port. And I just moved this out of the way. We need to make sure we have a turbine fluid port. Now, you can get away with 1, but in most reactors, you're actually going to want 2. They can go anywhere on this face. And then, let's see. There are a couple of optional blocks. Let's see if I can find it. We could grab ourselves 1 turbine computer port, and this would allow us to interface our reactor with a computer craft computer. If you know all about programming. If you don't know how to program, I would probably just skip it because you can run this just fine without it. And then for the rest of the sides, you can do things like put turbine glass. Now I will tell you that a builder's wand makes nice short work out of building some of this stuff. Or if you don't really want to look into your reactor, you can seal the sides with just regular old turbine housing. All right. Let's do more turbine glass. I like the way glass looks. Alrighty. Okay. So we've got 4 sides. Now we do have to cap off the top. But before we do that, I want to talk about one last thing that you're going to want to have in your reactor. So right now, we've basically created a way to use steam to spin a turbine. But in its current form, we have no way of getting electricity from that. How do you get electricity? Well, just like you do in the real world. You have a coil of metal that you put around your reactor. So right now I'm just using gold. Gold is a pretty solid metal to use. There is a spreadsheet that hopefully will be popping up sometime soon that shows you the relative efficiency of each of the different blocks that you can use. Let's go ahead and cap this off, and wouldn't you know, I did it backwards. Or no, I didn't. I don't have anything on the ground. So let's dig down here. And put something on the bottom. So I should mention that if you ever try and finish your reactor, and for some reason it doesn't do anything, if you right-click on the turbine controller, it will tell you the first reason, at least one reason, why you can't, the turbine did not build. So it says that block 765.8-50 is not valid for the machine's interior. So 765, if I look under my map, it says this one of these blocks, and you come down here and like, oh, I didn't finish this. That would be a problem. Oh, and now it finished. Excellent. So once all the textures connect, you know that you did the right thing. Okay. For a second there, I was a little worried that I had put the turbine bearing on the wrong side. Nope, we're good. Okay. So let's go ahead and kick this on and see what happens. Well, first thing we notice is that all the steam got sucked up and it got converted, at least some of it got converted into water. So what the steam turbine does is it takes in the steam. Steam then spins the turbine. You can see the turbines are ramping up in rounds per minute rapidly. And that steam is then converted into water at a 1-to-1 ratio. Well, where is this steam going? If we have no more room for water, something's got to be happening with it. Well, we look at these 3 buttons here. So we have 3 different controls over the vents. We could vent all of the exhaust. So anything that comes in here will get dumped out. We use some of it, but we dump whatever else out. We could vent the overflow only, or we could close the vents, and that's going to create problems with our current design because the water is not going to be vented. And if the water isn't vented, the steam can't be converted into water, so the steam builds up, and if the steam builds up, then the turbine speed starts to be affected. So let's put it on overflow only. Okay, so we notice that the rounds per minute are rapidly increasing. If this is not increasing fast enough for you, and especially on some of the larger turbines, you can control the induction coils, those metal coils that we put in the top, the gold. You can engage the coils or disengage the coils. If you disengage the coils, it will speed up much faster. than if you engage the coils. On this size reactor, we actually don't want it to go this fast. So, so what do we do if you have a reactor that's running faster than you'd like? Because remember, speeds over 2,000 rounds per minute may fail catastrophically. Not yet, but in future releases I hear that might happen. So we can decrease the amount of steam that we put in here. So we can decrease it by 1,000 and then maybe several hundred. Ultimately, our sweet spot is probably somewhere around 260 millibuckets per tick. So that means we have an excess of steam. It's getting vented. We're going to vent all the water, and this should slowly start spinning down. In fact, we can make it go a little bit faster if we deactivate the turbine for a little bit. So what you'll see is as we get closer to that 1800 rounds per minute, our redstone flux per tick will actually increase, even though the turbine is going slower than it was a minute ago. All right, looking pretty good. 1,679 redstone flux per tick for only 260 millibuckets every tick. That's a lot of power. Okay, what does this 95.4% mean? Well, that means that we are actually putting in more steam than our turbines can efficiently handle. We only have 8 turbines, but we're putting enough steam in that 10, and a little bit more, could actually handle. Each turbine can effectively process 25 millibuckets a tick, or efficiently process. And so we could decrease this even further if we went all the way down to, let's see if I can, 200, we'd be at 100% efficiency. But that is going to reduce the rounds per minute, so I'm fine with being a little less efficient just for the added speed and power. Okay, so right now we've created our turbine, and we are not using a reactor at all. Let's go ahead and work on how we actually use or get a reactor to create this. So we know we want about 260 millibuckets a tick for this particular reactor. The maximum amount of steam that any reactor can handle is 2,000 millibuckets, so then you want to play around with other things. All right, so let's come over here. One of the things that we want to do to take this reactor and turn it from what it was, which was a passive reactor, into an active reactor is to add some coolant ports. You're actually going to want to add 2 coolant ports. Where did my other coolant port go? Reactor coolant port. Over here. Okay. So you're going to want to have one set to inlet mode and one set to outlet mode. How do you transition between them? Well, you just right-click on them with a Buildcraft compatible wrench. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to add some water. So I like creative portable tanks. They're nice and easy for me. Go ahead and add some water to our reactor. Now this is probably not going to be enough water. I'm going to probably have to do something about that. But right now we have plenty of water in here. Alright. And then we want to take this steam out from our reactor. If I can do this correctly. There we go. Hey, that actually worked out really well. I didn't even plan that. Okay, and let's kick this reactor on. So what you'll notice is that upon applying those coolant ports, this reactor is now a little different. It's going to tell you how much hot steam is going to be produced. So let's go ahead and turn this on. Uh-oh, yeah, we're going to use more water than we need. Or more water than we have, I should say. And we are producing 150 millibuckets a tick. And we'll figure this out in a little bit. Okay. I should mention that if you run out of water, your reactor will actually start getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So that will cause it to use more fuel. And it will also actually make more steam, which would be great if I had additional water. We'll fix this in a little bit. Okay, so steam coming in. Our turbine is kicking up. Unfortunately, we are only bringing 120 millibuckets a tick into this reactor right now. So this is not going to be running at optimal efficiency. Remember, we wanted 260 millibuckets. Well, there are a couple things you can do. Mainly, you're going to want to, first off, add more water to this reactor because the water right now is limiting. So how can we get water back to the reactor? Well, it's pretty simple. We can right-click on this. So this is set to output. because right now we have taken this steam and turned it into water. Well, what should we do about that? Well, let's add some fluid ducts here so that we can take this water and do something useful with it. We'll run it straight over here, around and about. Now, fluid ducts are probably not the best choice for doing this because, alright, we can break that. Because fluid ducts do not really transport that much water. They do a decent amount of steam, but we're not getting a whole lot of water back from this. However, it is just enough to keep this producing 20 millibuckets a tick. A reactor would like to have a little bit more than that, but there we go. So we're now producing power. Unfortunately, this was producing 300 and something redstone flux. Because of our design of our turbine, well, actually, never mind. We are producing over 700 redstone flux a tick. So just taking the existing turbine or reactor and slapping a turbine, we've almost doubled our redstone flux output, which is actually pretty cool. Especially because it's not running at optimal efficiency. We really need it to have more water. We need to transport more stuff back and forth between these two things. So what can we do? Well, we can change the pipes. One pipe that is great. You can use things like the extra utilities. What are they called? Oh, they're somewhere in here. The transfer pipes. I guess you'd use the liquid pipe, wherever it is. I mean, you can use transfer pipe and then a transfer node, the liquid transfer node. Or, and this is one that I actually like to do, we can move our turbine, because we don't need to have our turbine all the way over here. We can put it right on top, just like we have with this one. So let me do that really quick, and we'll get back to you. Alright, so I've built another turbine right on top of our old reactor. Now, one thing that you want to do, and this is kind of the trick here, is you want to make sure that your coolant ports are matched up with the reactor coolant ports. So if the inlet mode on the reactor is right there, then we want to use the outlet mode on the turbine. Wait a minute, that is not the right reactor. And also make sure you don't use reactor coolant ports. We want to use turbine coolant ports. Alright. And then if the outlet for the reactor is right here, we're going to have the inlet. Oop, wrong direction. So actually, if you look at the colors match up. Oop, if I can do this correct. Oh my goodness. There we go. So we've got in, we've got out. And now we just need to stick everything back together. We need our power tap, we need our turbine controller, and stick the power tap right there, and put some glass around. Hopefully I didn't goof up too badly. Although I probably want to add gold block there, gold block here. Okay, cool. It's all put together. Now, the only problem that we're going to have is that right now, there isn't any water in here, and there's barely any steam. Got some steam in here, so we can turn this on, but we want to have another way to get water into this reactor, because we can't reach that other power tap, or coolant port right now. So, we're going to put a coolant port here. We're going to add some liquid ducts. We're going to use a creative tank because that's what I've been doing. Okay. So now this is filling up with water. We can activate this reactor. We can activate that reactor. We can go ahead and leave the vent on overflow anyway, just because, not going to overflow much. But you'll see that our reactor now has plenty of water in it. And if we wanted to go ahead and turn off the vent overflow, we could actually get rid of this. And what you'll see is that all of the water will get turned into steam. The steam will flow up here into this turbine, where it will get turned back into water, which will flow back into the reactor. So in this case, we don't have to worry about pipes and anything like that. We can just combine it all into one unit, which is pretty great. So what are we looking at? We're still speeding up. We have drastically increased the amount of redstone flux we've gotten. All right. So that's the basics. Do you need me to show you more? Maybe a larger reactor? Maybe something a little bit more interesting than using gold turbines? All right. I'll go ahead and throw something together really quick, and then I'll talk at you for a second and wrap this up. So here's that same reactor, just a whole lot taller. It went from being 5 high to being a whole lot larger. I didn't bother counting. You can if you want to. So why would you want to make it taller? Well, it allows you to put in more of these rotor blades. More rotor blades, ooh, needs more at the top here. More rotor blades allow your turbine to handle more steam, which means that the rotors can go faster, which means that it can make more power. Now, another way to make more power is to add additional coils, or to change out the material the coils are made out of. So we could add, say, some electrum blocks as a layer of coils. Electrum blocks, fairly easy to make. They're, okay, I guess, in terms of block. They're better than the gold we were using, I think. We could use things like enderium. Enderium's quite a bit more difficult to get, but it's actually one of the easily available resources, considering that it's a great energy, provides lots of energy. So far right now, the best block is this stuff called lutecrite. Oop, as I fall off my turbine. Now, lutecrite is just ridiculous in terms of how to get a hold of it. As you can see, the crafting recipe, you need to kill some withers, and yeah, it's a pain in the neck. But it is by far the best at producing power. Now, to make an entire reactor out of lutecrite is ludicrous, but well worth it if you are trying to make power. All right, so we can complete this reactor, and we're not going to be able to power it nearly as well as we would like to. Let's activate this reactor, activate this reactor, and let's see what kind of power generation we can get out of it. Now, you'll notice that we are using all of our blades. Actually, we're using 5 out of the 37 blades. So probably you're going to need quite a bit more steam to make this actually function the way we'd like it to, but that's okay. Let's let this warm up and think about it. While this is thinking about how much power it actually wants to put out, let's go over here and take a look at this reactor. So this is another reactor that I made, just to kind of show you that they don't all have to be upright. You can make them going horizontal and they work just fine. And I also made this a lot wider, just to show you that you have lots of flexibility with how you would like to make your reactors. Kind of make them whatever size you'd like to fit your base. Now, I will tell you that making something like this, you end up wasting a lot of space through here, because your coils can only be 1 block around your rotor shaft or turbine shaft. So is this the most efficient use of space? Probably not. But how much power is it producing? Whew, lots of power. Of course, it's going a little on the fast side. We probably want to cut this back even more than I have. It's using about 1,270 millibuckets, but it's making 12,000 redstone flux every tick. So that's pretty impressive. I am powering it with a creative steam generator over here. Works fairly well for creative mode. So let's see. What is this sitting at? What kind of power is it generating? Probably not much. Yeah, about what it was generating before, maybe even a little less. So depending on the amount of steam you are outputting, you're going to want to change the design of your turbine. Because if you're not producing that much steam, why the heck would you build a turbine that's this big? I don't know, but it was fun. On the other hand, if you were to take a reactor like this guy and turn this into an actively cooled reactor, you can produce full 2,000 millibucket steam for probably 4 or 5 turbines, maybe even more than that. I really haven't tried. I know that I did something like this and was easily producing power for 4 turbines, and I had my rods throttled way back. So yeah, that's big reactors for you. You've got lots of nuclear generation. You can run power straight from, your nuclear power reactors in a passive cooling mode, or you can turn them into active cooling reactors and produce steam that you can use in either these large turbines, or you can send them to other mods that require steam if you'd like. You could run steam dynamos with them if you really want to. That might be kind of fun. But hopefully you learned a lot. Hopefully I did a decent job. If I did, let me know. If I didn't, definitely ask me questions in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to help you out. Check out the links that I've posted throughout these to go to check out the spreadsheets and things like that. And also check out that big reactor simulator. That's great. Yeah. Till next time, this is Sidetrack signing off. Take it easy, folks.